الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض والعالمين وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد إنك ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحده. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have. وما بكم من نعمة فمن الله ما أصابك من حسنة فمن الله. We are actually drowning in the mercy and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and favors, and there is hardly anything we can do to thank Him enough for that, but we just have to do our best. وإن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها. And we come today, inshallah, on this blessed day of Jumu'ah to renew our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the commitment that we made when we decided to become Muslim. That's a big decision, that involves a lot of commitment. It's a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it ahd and mithaq. It is a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or a contract that you sign with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So better be aware and know what did we commit ourselves to, and then honor our commitment and our pledge. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, as you know, there are many products for which there is a way to determine whether the product is authentic or not. That applies to some food, applies to jewelry. There is a way, there is a experiment or thing to do to discover whether this is really genuine or authentic, or it is fake, or it is it's not pure, to verify. Now, we have something very similar for Islam. We have a way to determine whether the version of Islam is authentic, is true, is original, or it is not pure. Now, how we can verify that? How we can determine whether the version of Islam verified is true and original and pure or not? It's very simple. Islam, the true Islam. What does the true Islam or the authentic Islam do? It transforms individuals. It changes individuals. And the companions, there is no comparison before Islam and after Islam. There is complete transformation. There is an individual who has changed. Actually, when Sa'd ibn Mu'adh accepted Islam, when he came back to his people, they noticed that this is a different person. This is not the one who went to punish Mus'ab ibn Umair for spreading Islam in Medina, and Mus'ab told him, "Do you want to listen?" And then Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, there is complete, before praying, before doing anything, there was complete transformation. They said this person is different from the one who went to argue with Mus'ab ibn Umair. So there is a complete transformation of individuals. These individuals, they become mission-driven. They become people who are restless. They have a purpose in life. They're not just living. They're living for something big, for something. That's the transformation. How does Islam do this? Again, by committing people to a mission. Someone was living for himself, becomes a Muslim, and now he's living for something bigger than his life. And then Islam turns those individuals immediately into agents of change in their environment.
in their respective. They go to action immediately. They start changing people and changing things. Through da'wah, through amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar, there is no lag period. Companions would not say, give me some time until I learn. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, in his second and third day, he brought a couple of people to Islam. So there is no lag, immediate. There is transformation and then going to action immediately. To call people to Islam and then to change, to affect the same transformation in those individuals. And then what? And then Islam has a recipe, the true Islam has a model to bring these individuals into a community with true leadership that is also a mission-driven community. So we have the mission-driven individuals. They get into action immediately, and then Islam brings them together in a community that is mission-driven, that is making difference in the lives of people and wherever they settle. As Quran described, الذين مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر. Do you see this happening nowadays? It is not. We have people who come to Islam. There is no complete transformation. There are some minor changes. If the person was drinking, will stop drinking. Person was not praying, becomes praying, start praying. There are those changes, but there is no complete transformation. Their behavior, their interaction with people, mu'amala. Their behavior at work, their behavior at home, the way they deal with spouses, a lot of time there isn't a major change. So we don't see that complete transformation. We see some additions, some adjustments, but not complete transformation. Do you see a community like the prophetic community with a true leadership and the community that is making difference? No, it's not happening. And I don't see it, and it's not. So clearly, this is not happening. So that's a very simple test to verify that this version of Islam that we inherited is very different from the true or the original or the pure Islam that was preached by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have Muslims who are practicing. They start practicing Islam. No mission in life. They start practicing Islam, and we have a new category of Muslim that did not exist before, which is the passive Muslim. Muslim who's keeping Islam for themselves. They apply it in their lives. They observe the rituals, sha'air. They avoid haram and halal, so they apply it in their life, but they don't care what's happening around them. They can be living under oppression, injustice, corruption, doesn't matter. They don't feel that's not their responsibility. They feel that they are good Muslim because they are observing those, performing those sha'air and observing the halal and the haram in their lives. And when we came together as a community, but there is no true leadership. I mean, if you compare our community to the prophetic community, the prophetic model of building and leading community had 4 key elements. You find them in a community, that's a prophetic community. You don't find them, that's not. Even if it looks like a prophetic community. One is the community of the Prophet is a mission-driven community. They have mission. 2, they have true leadership. That's second. 3, there was true brotherhood among people. It's not like us today praying and don't even know each other's names. There was true brotherhood. And the 4th element, there was the concept of mentorship, which is when someone comes new to the community, the Prophet ﷺ will assign someone to mentor them, to help them integrate. Those are the 4 key elements of a prophetic community. Do you see them? We don't. Alhamdulillah, it's good that we were able to get our own facilities and pray and fulfill our basic obligations, but we are nowhere close to a prophetic community. So, verifying the true Islam, the signs are not there. Verifying the indicators or the characteristics of the prophetic communities, the signs are not there. And we came as a community with no true leadership, and we are not a mission-driven community, and we are not making a difference. Do the people in this area feeling our presence? They don't. We didn't make big difference in the lives of people around them. That's not the nature of Muslims. Wherever they settle, they make a difference. They make a difference, they solve problems, they make things better. But that's not, unfortunately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in Quran clearly that we are an ummah that is not designed to serve itself. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. إنا أنزلنا عليك الكتاب بالحق للناس. The Quran was sent to people. This ummah, this community was built to serve and lead and guide people, not to just close itself behind the walls of the masjid and just observe their rituals. لتكونوا شهداء على الناس. لتكونوا شهداء على الناس. You're supposed to be to show the way, to lead and to guide and to make a difference in the lives of people. Now the question is, how can we fix this? How can we close this gap? There is a clear gap between the pure original Islam and the current version of Islam, even though on the surface they look the same, but the result is very different. We're talking about a religion that is so inspiring, so empowering, that few dozens of people, small number of people, it's like the number who are in the masjid now, in the middle of nowhere, they were able to change the world with that deen. That's how great this deen is. That's how inspiring and empowering it is. It takes those small number of people who have no elements of success. And if Islam was revealed in the Roman Empire or the Persian Empire, maybe you will not see the impact. But it was revealed in place in the middle of nowhere. People who are poor and worshipping idols, fighting each other. There is no civilization whatsoever there. And then turns those individuals into champions of a great civilization. They changed the world in one generation. That's the original, the true Islam. Now we have a religion that is embraced by more than $1.5 billion, maybe 2 billion. Yet, what's the impact in the world? Very minimal. So, how do we close that gap? And how, first of all, how does the true Islam produce the results? Produce those results. Number one, through the individuals. Those individuals that are transformed, when they are interacting with people, people will see the beauty of Islam. In their behavior, in their compassion, in their exemplary behavior. So that's how the Islam affects change. When it is embraced by individuals, you people will notice, will see you different, will see how honest you are, how compassionate you are, etc. That's your neighbor, that's your colleague, etc. So Islam affects its change through the individuals and the individual behavior, because Islam turns them into role models, one, and good ambassadors. They represent this religion in the best possible way. And we know there are some Muslim countries nowadays, they were transformed by individuals. No army went to Indonesia. It was the merchant, the individuals, through their behavior and through their interaction. And second, Islam affects change through the community. Because remember that the Muslim community is a community that has a mission. And what is that mission? Is Islah, is Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. So we gather together in masjid, driven by that mission, and then we go out and make a difference and change things. That's the whole idea of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. That whatever good you find in the society, you protect it, you promote it, you strengthen it. Whatever things that are bad in the society, you work to reduce them or to eliminate them. That's what Muslims do. That's what Muslims individuals do in their circles, and that's what the Muslim community will do wherever it settles. So that's the prophetic community. And that's how the true Islam builds the community and affects the change in the society. Now, it won't be easy in our case to do that. Why? Because we are living in a very advanced nation, in a very advanced society. And given the current situation of the Muslim world, it's going to make it very hard for us to contribute or to make a difference, because people may not be very willing to listen to us. Because what comes to their mind? If Islam is so great, why Muslims are in deep trouble? That's what in the minds of people. And then you tell them Islam is about peace, so why it is associated with terrorism? There is an image problem. And there is a reality that is very sad, makes our job difficult. It's not easy, but it's still doable. Because the true Islam has a lot to offer, not only to America, but to any nation. The true Islam has a lot to offer to solve the problems of any societies and to make the life better in any societies. But of course, that's not going to happen with our current understanding of Islam. Our current understanding of Islam tells us that it's okay to be passive Muslim. Why? Because it is defined to us as well. How do we define Islam nowadays, or how it is defined? Submission to Allah. Which is true, but it is misunderstood. And then it is defined as a way of life. It is true, but it is much more than that. Islam is not just that you submit to Allah and you apply it in your life. Islam is a message and a mission of change. That after you do that, then you go out and you start making a difference in the lives of people and in the society in which you are. That's the missing element. That's the element that has gone over the centuries. So, with the current understanding of Islam, it's not going to happen, because you can ask yourself, what is it that we are offering? What is it that we are offering nowadays to humanity or to the civilization? And what's the Muslim contribution to humanity or to the civilization at the world stage? Very insignificant. Statistics say that. Very insignificant. Other than some countries, they have raw material, they just extract them and sell them. We have hardly anything that we're contributing to humanity or to the civilization. And most of the Muslim world is plunged in backwardness, takhalluf. Dictatorship, corruption, civil wars, you name it. Is this happening because of Islam? No, this is happening in spite of Islam. This is happening because of the wrong understanding or the lack of understanding of Islam. Plus, we have an image problem. Whether we like it or not, nowadays Islam has been associated with a number of terrorist attacks. So there is an image problem that we have, so that makes again our job difficult, but it's still doable. Now, at the personal level, so at the world stage, there is hardly anything that we're contributing. As a community, what did we contribute to this area since we settled? Do people feel our presence? No, not really. But also at the personal level, Are we showing the highest level of characters and morals in our interaction? In the minds of people around us, does Muslims associated with people who are honest, who have work ethics, etc.? I heard from Muslim business people say, I will never hire a Muslim again because of bad experiences they had. So if this is happening even within our, what do you think the image outside? Again, we have to call things the way they are. So at the personal level, do we show the highest level of character and morals? So in the mind of your neighbor or your colleague, what is it that you're offering them? You're telling them that become a Muslim so that you become a good person. They will tell you I'm a good person already. There are people who have good family values. They have people who have good work ethics. There are people who are involved in charity. There are people who do not drink. They don't cheat on their spouses. They don't. So what are you offering them? You're going to have to ask ourselves that the current understanding of Islam doesn't have much to offer to people. And that's why it is not attractive even for our young people, not for non-Muslims. And I heard this also from young Muslims. I say, I can be a good person without the Islam that my parents want to impose on me. Because they keep telling him only about punishment and hellfire and you need to do this and never convincing. He said, I can be a good person. I'm a good person without that. I don't need this. So there is a major change has happened to that original, pure, inspiring, and empowering Islam. What happened to it? Number one, it stagnated. Jammed. Stagnated, that's why nowadays we're relying on the fiqh of the 2nd centuries and the 3rd centuries. Tafsir and fiqh are completely, why? Because it was frozen. Now our religion was frozen in time. So we're completely, ijtihad has stopped a long time ago. Even though this religion lives on ijtihad. Islam remains relevant and inspiring only with ijtihad. Stop ijtihad, it freezes, and then it is detached from life. And the ijtihad has stopped a long time ago. That's why we sit down nowadays, we're relying on the tafsir and the fiqh that was done centuries ago. Like the 2nd and 3rd centuries. That by itself is enough. That's enough damage to our deen when you freeze it. And you freeze the minds of its followers. What do you expect when you have that intellectual stagnation will produce stagnation in the reality. But more than that, there are more damage happen to our deen other than the stagnation or freezing in time. Some essential elements. There are some essential components in our deen, they have faded. They are not there. Some happen naturally, but in some cases it happened by design. Because that true Islam, that inspiring Islam does not suit the dictators. So they removed those essential elements with the help of ulama sultan, the official scholars, the paid scholars, the scholars who will issue fatwa to the ruler on demand. With the help of those scholars, they removed anything that mobilizes people, anything that inspires. They kept only what makes people quiet. Why? Because the true Islam does not live, dictatorship does not live with the true Islam. They imagine the companions will accept this dynasty rule that is absolute power by an individual inherited by his son. There is no way. People who embrace the true Islam will accept that injustice, that I'm ruling you and you are my subjects. We're not equal, now we are the ruling family. There is no way we'll accept that. But only when Islam, when those essential elements that we're going to talk about were removed, then we have Islam that can coexist with that dictatorship. Why? Because it tells people only to pray, fast, abstain from haram, worry about punishment, etc., but don't worry about injustice. Obey the ruler regardless of what they do. And there are hadith that were put to tell people that you have to obey your ruler even if they take you, steal your money. Even if they take your money, even if they torture you, you just how, where, that's, again, this is the part that was done by design. I'm going to focus on three main components that I believe constitute the foundation of our deen. And these elements have largely faded. They were shaken badly, and nowadays you don't even see them. Or you see them, but very faded. And that's why this whole, that original Islam collapsed or crumbled, because those foundations, these foundations were shaken or faded. So what is left? Before we talk about those essential elements, what is left from that original true Islam? Rituals, sha'air. And then personal fiqh. Personal fiqh, not even social fiqh, no, personal fiqh. Which means you as an individual, how you make wudu, how you pray, what you do at the personal level. But the social justice or that's not even there. So the rituals and the personal fiqh, that is what is left from that original great, inspiring and empowering religion. And we're going to talk about those essential components that were removed. So these rituals and this personal fiqh is not producing that transformation. They don't transform individuals. And by the way, a lot of those rituals, they are performed mechanically. Like salah, it's not even iqamat as-salah. It's you do it just to get it out of the way because you are afraid of punishment. That's why it is not producing the effect. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salah is not producing its effect because it is being performed routinely and mechanically. That's why you can't find someone who's praying a lot and on time and maybe on the masjid, but still they abuse their spouses or their families. They don't have work ethics. They may take bribes. They don't see any contradiction with the two, between the two. Why? Because the prayer is something on the side and it is not producing the effect. So that personal fiqh and the sha'air, they are not producing that transformation for individuals and that community. The vast majority of Muslims nowadays, because of this, the vast majority of Muslims nowadays, they are passive Muslims. And that's a new category that did not exist in the early days of Islam. Someone who will keep Islam for themselves. Now we read in the seerah, individuals who embrace Islam and the next day, and sometimes the same day, they go out and start preaching, getting involved in da'wah and start fixing things. That's not happening anymore. Vast majority of Muslims nowadays fall in a new category, which is a passive Muslim, even though these are two terms that are contradictory. Muslim by definition cannot be passive. Muslim by the stand out firmly for justice. There is no such thing that I'm going to mind my business, my own business. I don't care about what's happening around me. That does not exist in Islam. And nowadays, as I said, the vast majority of Muslims, they fall in that category. They practice Islam in their lives, but they don't care what's happening around them. And they are okay with injustice, oppression, corruption, etc. I'm going to mention those three components, and inshallah we'll be talking about them in the next Friday, Jumu'ah, if Allah gives us the life. One, the essential component of our deen is the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, did this disappear? No, it did not disappear. It's still there, but it has faded. This great relationship that has so many components, so many elements, multi-dimensional. You know, 2D, 3D, this is multi-dimensional. relationship, has love, has reverence, has gratitude, has so many components in that relationship, it was reduced to we are worshipping Allah just because we don't want to punish Him. We don't want Him to punish us. So one essential component, it's still there, but it was reduced. It became very superficial and very shallow. Even though it was meant to be, as I said, multidimensional, and it was meant for us to try to be completely devoted to Allah. ولكن كونوا ربانيين ولكن كونوا ربانيين بما كنتم تعلمون الكتاب وبما كنتم تدرسون. You try to be devoted to Allah, and that requires that you get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that you will love Him more than anything else, including yourself, and so that you work on all those dimensions of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will produce the vibrant spirituality, which we don't see it nowadays. We have very dry version of Islam. Vibrant spirituality. You hardly hear about love of Allah. Most of the time it's about fearing and about punishment. And that's lack of balance. So we need that. Spirituality is very badly needed, because that's the fuel. That's what gives you the energy and the motivation. It is that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we'll be talking about how it should be and how it was reduced to something very superficial and very shallow. Second element, essential element that was completely removed. You don't hear even people talking about, which is the mission of Islam, Risalah of Islam. That Islam is essentially a mission, a job. It's a job that you take when you become Muslim. And there is a job description that you have to be aware of it and to honor it. That's something that is not emphasized at all, and this, I believe, it was done by design. Because those absolute rulers, they don't want this. They don't want people to know about this, to have this sense of mission, because that can challenge their power and their absolute power. It was the job of the prophets, but after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last prophet, it became the job of every one of us. Yes, you were assigned the job that was assigned to prophets before. The job that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ fulfilled is your job and my job. He was sent to show us the way and to show us how to do it. But it is meant to be the job of every Muslim, and يكون رسول قومه, that you fulfill the job of the Prophet and the mission of the Prophet in your circle. And that's again something that has faded. Now, when I said job description, what is that mission of believers? If you ask anybody what they're going to say, I need to be praying, I need to be fasting. No, that's not. That's not the job description. These are the tasks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed for us to help us fulfilling our job. This is not the job. And that's why they came later in Medina. For whom? For people who already committed. There are people who died in Mecca before they know about all these things. So these rituals that we define them as deen today, they were prescribed to help people doing their job, to maintain that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that's not the job or that job description. These are things Allah has forbidden, that personal fiqh of things that Allah has forbidden, and that those rituals that Allah prescribed, they are meant to help us fulfilling the job right and doing it right. And then the third element is something that should become very common in our vocabulary. It's called maqasid. That this deen has objectives, purposes, divine purposes or ultimate purposes. What is it that Allah wants to happen on earth? That's your job and my job to make it happen. So there is a job and there are targets There are goals. It's like when you take a job, there is a job description, and then they will tell you these are the goals for this year, or these are the targets for the company that you have to work hard to make sure that you fulfill them. So there is a job description and there are goals. In Islam, there is the same thing. There is a mission and there are maqasid, ultimate purposes. Allah wants justice to prevail on earth. Quran says this explicitly. ليقوم الناس بالقسط. ليقوم الناس إن أنزلنا لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. Clear verse says that Allah sent messengers and prophets and revelations for what? For justice to prevail on earth. Who's going to make that happen? The Prophet ﷺ passed away. It is his followers to make sure that justice prevails on earth. And that applies to other maqasid as we're going to. This has to become, we need to revive this essential element. Yes, the translation is the ultimate purposes or the divine purpose. What is it that Allah wants to happen on earth? But also we're going to have to get used to this word of maqasid, that this deen is devotion to Allah. You try to be completely devoted to Allah, and that devotion translates not into rahbaniyah. Allah does not want you to stay in the masjid and be completely isolated. That devotion in Islam is not expressed this way. That devotion in Islam is expressed by going out and fulfilling those purposes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fulfilling that mission of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar and Islah, and achieving the maqasid or the ultimate purposes of Islam. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with you. It's a complete devotion. You may think that, okay, to be devoted, I'm going to stay in the masjid, and no, that's not. It's a complete devotion that translates into fulfilling a mission to achieve very specific maqasid, as we'll come back inshallah and explain وَتُوبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, this mission of Islam is explained in Quran and authentic Hadith. Those maqasid or ultimate purposes are there. We just have to do our homework to find out what is expected from us. What is the job that we were created to fulfill and do it to the best of our abilities? What are the purposes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth? Muradillah. And how can I maximize my contribution? Maximize. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. To test you who is the best in deeds. So trying to maximize your contribution to fulfilling the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then try and do your best to fulfill that mission, to understand it and fulfill it to the best of your ability. All the time trying to be completely devoted to Allah. وَلَكِنْ كُونُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. You reach a point where all your life is dedicated to Allah and to His cause. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وتوفنا من راض عنا